Hello, everybody. Boy, that was an abrupt cutoff. Hello, everybody. It's the Pete the Planner Show, and you're thinking, what? You've been filling my podcast feed with garbage all week. Well, yes. Hi, it's me, Kristen, Dame. Hello.
Hello.
Good day.
Okay, so can I please explain the podcast feed, which is now very full with me?
I think you're probably better.
Okay. First, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Kristen's buying a house today.
Indeed.
Signing her name.
Yes.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10, you read it like an annoying lawyer, or 1, you actually brought a rubber stamp that you bought at an Etsy store and you just stamp your name. What are you in regards to reading legal documents?
Like a 2.
Yeah, Dane, what are you?
Depends on the document. I mean, if it's just one that I'm mildly interested in, I'll read it. But if it's just sheets of pablum, I just sign and move on.
This closing would take an hour if I actually read this stuff.
Oh yeah,
at least.
Yeah, I'm a 2. Business dealings, by the way. I'm like a 7.
You've got people for that, though.
I've got people for that. I pay exorbitant prices to attorneys for that. One of my son's soccer coaches the other day was like, Pete, you're an attorney, right? Then all the other dads just started laughing. I was like, no. Like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't even know how to explain it. I really don't. Anyway, here's what is wrong with the podcast feed. Here, until further notice, this is about 10 weeks, what I can promise what's about to happen, okay? I think I might be telling you guys for the first time, too. I don't know.
I think you announced the very first run of that new thing you're doing.
There will be a new podcast on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay? Wednesday. Tuesdays is Navigating Now. Navigating Now is a 10-minute what has happened since the previous podcast. So on Tuesday at 2 p.m., I'm going to record this sucker, and I'm going to tell you what has happened since Thursday's recording, the previous Thursday's recording, in the market and the economy, and then we do a little personal finance lesson. It's 10 minutes long. That's Tuesday's Navigating Now. Wednesday, Story Time with Pete. Just me bloviating about nothing. Mm-hmm. Thursday, another Navigating Now, same deal. And what has happened since that Tuesday. Friday, this show. There it is. Four things. Is that good?
Yeah.
That's a lot of content.
Hello, everybody. Dan, Andy, Rochelle, Jason, Jeremiah, Big Rick Swink, Tom, and Jeremiah comments again twice in 1 minute. Maybe calm down, Jeremiah. You guys, we're going to talk about the market a little bit today, but it's just like there's just so much going on. Like we're going to talk about it, but our goal was to not just keep going. I mean, of course, we need to update. Some people get their financial news from the show, so we got to kind of give that news. Dame,
is that kind of like getting your news from the Daily Show or something? I mean, it feels like there are probably better choices for your financial news than us.
You think it's bad to get your news from the Daily Show?
Yeah.
Why? Because what they do is they give you the news and then they just do a joke, but it's still the news.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Wait, you don't think it's the actual news?
I didn't say it wasn't the news. I just say if you like your news slanted with a lot of an editorial, then yeah, go for it. But if you're just looking for facts, then maybe pick a different source. Gosh, I love a good Jon Stewart joke as much as anybody, but I don't go to him for my news.
Man, we haven't seen this Dame in a while, and I missed him a lot.
Today's going to be a good day.
Today might be a good day. So we're going to talk about what if what has just happened in the market and the economy and everything else has just blown up your spot, like has just blown up your plans, messed up your retirement. You were going to buy a house and now you can't. You're going to buy a car, now you can't. Like, what do you do? That's what we're going to talk about today. Kristen, now a lot has happened since Liberation Day. Is that what we called it? Liberation Day?
Yes.
Where we've all been liberated from the balances within our investment account?
Yes.
That has not stopped you from buying a home today, correct?
No, it has not.
Even when we had an all-team meeting on Wednesday and I told everyone, now's not a good time to buy a house, that has not stopped you.
No, you had 10 things that you shouldn't do right now. And I think that I broke like 3 of the 10 rules. Yeah. So I'm doing well.
As long as you don't break the quit your job rule that I put out there. Don't quit your job rule. One thing I wanted to touch on, if I can get a little, I have some. Whoa! Did anybody hear that noise?
Yeah, sure did.
What's happening? Is it still going?
Yeah, I think so. It says live. We're still recording.
I know, it was a weird sound. I do have some hard economic news, like, or not news, but sort of just like commentary that's not editorialized, name, so you'll be fine.
Thanks.
Should I do it on the radio or should I do it now? You care? Maybe the radio deserves something.
I feel like the radio probably deserves something. All of the other content you just mentioned is podcast only, so
We kind of the radio. I mean, radio gets some stuff. It gets some good stuff, but I mean, like this is the jam here. You know, we've been dog sitting this week.
Oh, how's it? I mean, it's been a minute since you've had a dog in your house. How's that been going?
It's lovely. All right, so this dog is a mini Labradoodle, maybe.
I would have put money on Frenchie, but whatever.
Yeah. So this is like a high end dog, man. Like they go, we had rescue pugs, right? So this is a high end dog, and like I'm talking a lot of money. This dog is totally worth it. I mean, I didn't pay any of the money. This is a great dog. Dame, you're old. Do you remember the stuffed animal brand? It's like Gund or something like that. They're like Gant. Gant was a clothing. Gund maybe.
I don't.
Anyway, this dog is like a freaking teddy bear. It is unbelievable, and it's just like polite. Like we put food in its bowl and it's like, thank you. And I was like, okay. And it was like, my pleasure. And it's like, it's the most polite dog ever. And it's lovely and it doesn't smell. Oh man. But we're giving it back today. So Ted's scared of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
why?
He just, I don't know. I mean, it's like the cute, it's like getting attacked by like a gremlin or a mogwai.
She has no idea what that is either.
I know. I've seen gremlins.
Okay. Before they turn into the scary thing, they're called mogwais.
Oh, I didn't remember that though. Okay.
My wife contends that I don't remember anything, but then I just hit us all with mogwai, and I'm like, I know what I should know.
Yeah.
I would not repeat that to her the way you just said that to us.
I've been married for 25 years. I've figured this out.
Okay.
Next week's show.
Hey guys, we're separating.
Okay. No surprises on the show. Okay. Let's do a segment, and then man, here's the thing. What the economic thing I want to do? I want to do why it's bad when oil prices fall. Like why it actually messes the economy up, which is important to discuss, but it has nothing to do with our topic today.
It's true. It has zero to do with our topic today.
Okay, here's what I'll do. We'll just do the show, and then between the next two segments, I'll do it because I think it's interesting because you're like, oh, good, oil prices are falling, we can drive, and it won't cost us everything. And then you like look at what it does when oil prices fall like they have, and you're like, oh crap, we actually don't want oil prices to fall that far.
Sounds like you just kind of did the segment.
No, but I'll give you the why.
Oh,
and then I'll make jokes about it, and then I'll make sure to give a slanted view. I don't think you can have a slanted view about oil prices, can you?
I think you can.
probably.
Do you think I will? Okay, here's how we'll do this. Here's how we'll do this. You each get to evaluate whether I delivered uneditorialized commentary about oil prices, and you can tell me, and I will fully accept whatever you say.
Okay. Yes or no?
Yes or no? What?
Whether you did or didn't, whether you delivered uneditorialized comment, sure. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dame, I'm telling you, Kristen, Dame is ready to bite someone's head off today, and I can feel it. And that head is my head.
I don't know. I'm a little concerned.
Dame,
I'll just say no. You didn't.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Dame, what has you so fiery today?
I don't know. I love it. You know what? It is really close to tax day.
Oh boy. Yeah, I am actually waiting for the email from a fella with the number of the check.
I already know the numbers, and they are. I mean, hey,
you know, let's see if I can find it right now.
Tough.
Oh, I have it right here.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna open it. I'm gonna open it. That's a lot more than I thought.
This is why you shouldn't have done that.
How about those oil prices?
It's a bummer that they're down, huh?
Ooh, that is more than I had anticipated. Huh.
Rough go.
Boy, that was a mistake.
I tried to tell you.
That was literally more.
Should have packed your lunch.
That was 33% more than I thought it would be.
Hey, don't quit your job, Pete.
That was a terrible unforced error.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Okay. Here we go. Ready? You guys ready?
Of course. Yes.
Terrible situation.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And here's what'll happen. We will answer your question. This week, though, we're not. It's been such a dynamic week in the market and the economy, domestically, globally, all over the place. We're going to do a very, very, very basic recap of what's happened. And then we're going to say, hey, look, if any of these things have derailed your plans like, hey, maybe you sold at the wrong time when you shouldn't have this week and that hurt you. Or what if you were about to retire in a month? Or what if you're about to buy a house or buy a car? Or like, what if your plans have gotten thrown off by what is going on? That's what we'll do. Joining me, as always, is Kristen Elanius, the Queen of Northern Indiana.
Hello.
Did you like that?
I did. That was nice.
And Damian Dunn also lives north.
Good day.
Sure. So here's what's happened this week. To back up as far as we can. Market was in a free fall. Market's in a free fall. Market's reacting. Market is a forward-looking, a leading indicator of what is to come. And the market investors feel like 6 to 12 months from now, we're going to be in recessionary conditions. Dame, I don't want to editorialize, but that is the consensus of why the market was crashing, because of their fear of what was going to happen over the next couple of quarters. Agree or disagree?
There's lots of fear. There is plenty of debate on whether or not this leads to a recession, though.
I would love that debate. Anyway, that's for another time. Next, then President Trump said, hey, I'm pausing all the reciprocal tariffs. And then the market went bananas, went up 3,000 points, the Dow Jones. Okay, so that's what happened. Then the next day, when everyone figured out that there's still 10% tariffs on everyone and cars and aluminum and steel, and then he cranked it up on China, people freaked out again and the market fell 1,500 points. And so now we're somewhere in limbo there right now. That's where it finds us. But more than anything, Kristen, this, due to bad luck, caught some people at the worst time possible for what they have going on. So it's with that we have this discussion today. Kristen, if someone was going to retire this year, someone was going to retire in the year 2025, and this has just happened, and they were not yet in a 60-40 portfolio, which is, I'm not suggesting is the way you should go, but I'm saying a lot of people find their way there as you get towards retirement. What do they do? What happens next?
Man, the reality is you don't want to hear what I have to say if you're this person, but we probably have to reevaluate a timeline for retirement in the event that there isn't rapid market recovery like we saw the last time there was a dip.
I would argue, even if there is rapid market recovery, that maybe you just extend your timeline a little bit right now, just to be sure, to give yourself a little bit of padding on the other end of it.
Why?
There's a lot of instability going on right now, whether it's just in the U.S., around the world, politically, economically, it is kind of a dumpster fire out there at this point. And so we just saw it. We dropped a whole bunch in the markets earlier this week. Everything came rushing back. Then we dropped back. Let's just say everything magically settles itself out and are okay. Are you willing to roll the dice on a stable economy for the next 6 to 12 months, 6 to 24 months, let's say, to give you some runway for a sequence of returns risk? Or do you have some plans to make some income and not draw on those dollars nearly as much as you were planning on those first 2 years in retirement? I think there's some considerations to be had on cushioning the demand for those dollars.
Real quick, what's the period of time in which it gets on track relatively soon? Like when are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, if we just saw it, a hint of how quickly things could come back potentially. Am I saying that's what I expect with if these 70 countries that said they want to figure out some kind of deal with us and magically waves a wand and that fixes everything? No, it may bring some stabilization to the conversation, but I don't think that's going to fix everything. But man, I would be really hesitant to just, unless you've done an amazing job of planning for retirement and it really doesn't matter what happens, I think you might want to try and plan on decreasing the demand for those dollars that you've stashed away.
Kind of a small point of order. Just
Sure.
You don't have to get stuck here. I mean, I guess I should technically hit the timeout. I mean,
Timeout.
That's what it's there for. Shouldn't we say the 70 countries that we're told that want to make a deal with us, as opposed to the 7 countries that want to make a deal with us? Because I'm not fully convinced there are 7 countries that want to make it. 70 countries that want to make a deal with us. I just don't believe it.
So you're saying we've been told there are 70 countries that want to make a deal with us, but you're not convinced that 70 countries have said, "Uncle," and we want that's the distinction you're making.
That's the distinction, because in that exact same press conference, Scott Bessent said, "Hey, what just happened has been the plan all along." And then minutes later, President Trump says, "This was not the plan. I made this decision because people were getting yippy." So why would I believe what Bessent says when he was contradicted by his boss minutes later? You know what I mean? So, But anyway, to your point, a lot has to get done, whether there's 70 or 100 or 5. A lot has to get done. Kristen, do you think someone can, when that gets done, the question is back to you from Dame, can they actually retire right then and there, or do they have to wait like Dame suggests?
I don't think you have to wait.
Wow.
We talk all the time. Okay, that is if you are someone who has done the appropriate planning, or if as things are rebounding, if you realize that, hey, maybe I wasn't quite as cash heavy as I needed to be to make this work. If you can make those adjustments in a way that makes sense, I do think that you can still retire when you want to, because to me, we talk so much about don't time the market, don't try to time the market. This feels like another version of that almost. And if we've done the appropriate planning, can't we retire when we want to?
Dame, this is an interesting question, because what I want to try to understand from you is, do you think, because what you're saying, you and I agree, but we agree in a different way. Like, I think damage is done for a little bit, even if the market recovers, right? It's things are just going to be weird.
Yeah.
And that's why a person probably shouldn't immediately continue with their retirement plans the second the market recovers. And not, again, Kristen, I'm being a little convenient by saying the second the market, you know what I mean, right, Dave?
Yeah, I think we're tracking on this. Honestly, it's even if, like I said, things magically come back to where they were 6 months ago, I would be very hesitant to start drawing on those dollars, knowing that who knows what could be just around the corner with another decision at this point. I'd love to see some consistency and some stability out of the decisions of the administration before I start drawing those dollars down.
All right, Kristen, we have a minute left. And so I'm going to hit you with the hardest question I've got today. And I'm not even joking. What about if someone sold, I don't know how the days of the week worked out. I think, what if someone sold on Wednesday? What if someone sold on, or the day, what if someone sold the right before Trump's changed his mind? And now they've locked in this horrific loss. What do?
They call a financial planner and they work on a strategy to get reinvested so that they won't do that again. I don't think you can do it yourself anymore.
Dame, do you think it's, not to oversimplify it like I do everything, but couldn't you just start dollar cost averaging back in as the market starts to fall, and then you may actually end up being okay?
You could, but it'll take a ton of discipline to do that if the markets continue to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You're gonna be so spooked at that point based on that turn, the quick turn. So, all right, after the break, here's what we're gonna do. If you were in the market for a car in 2025 and this week happened, what happens next? Right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Damn, I love this. So, do you believe that if they say there's 70 countries, do you take that at face value?
No, I believe very little that the government of any administration tells me.
There we go.
There he is.
Back on track.
Damian Dunn.
I was surprised. For a second, I thought you were taking it at face value. And I was like, wow, didn't expect that. What I really think happened, have you heard this crazy conspiracy theory that this was all a point to drive down bond prices so that the debts that we owe to countries like China become less expensive?
Yeah, trying to refinance all the debt as it's coming due with cheaper debt. I mean, in theory, it sounds like almost an ingenious plan, but that's just a huge roll of the dice. I can't imagine somebody would have tried that.
On our flagship station, WIBC, one of the hosts went on a whole thing this past weekend about that. So I was told. And it's a wild, like you said, it's a theoretically genius, not exactly diabolical.
Yeah, right.
But crazy risky.
Yeah.
Crazy risky. And there's just no conceivable way that's what the thinking was.
No.
I have no doubt President Trump has an idea of what he wants to do. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But all of these, like, this is 4D chess. I'm like, I'm done with that. There's no way. It's just like, there's a ways they're going to do it. There's good and bad that comes with it. This ain't 4D chess.
Can we just get back to checkers?
Yes, I would love. I would love checkers. Anyway, here's what I think this is all about. When bond yields started going up, bond prices started falling. And that was, we were much closer than people think to a financial system collapse if that kept going in the right direction. Like 2008, 2009, call on cash from banks. Like it was, I think that's the bond market's what changed everything. Had nothing to do with anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of people have been asking oil prices. What's the deal? Okay, so this is interesting. In some aspects, oil prices are a leading indicator of economic trouble. So, like if they're going down, it's saying that there's weakening demand. So this is number one. Hold on.
Number one.
I'm gonna have 5, I think.
Oh my.
Number one reason why oil prices going down is bad.
It signals weak global demand. It basically says ships aren't sailing, and by sailing I mean using motors and engines and whatnot. It means trucks are not on the road, driving goods all over the place. People are not flying. Commerce is not happening. Demand is down, and then that affects oil prices. And that is a leading indicator of, hey, when we have to report earnings on all of these things months later, that is bad. So that is number one. Dame looks so skeptical. I think his face fell off.
I was just thinking, didn't OPEC in like the last week or 10 days announced they were cranking up production by a lot?
I don't know, but I believe that's correct. I don't know for certain, but I believe that's correct. But I don't think it can be fully attributed to just them cranking up production.
Why would they flood the market with more oil when demand's decreasing?
Why would they drive down the price of oil and hurt themselves?
That's what I'm asking.
I don't know. No one knows.
Okay.
Anyway, these are just theories of why oil prices going. I'm not saying this is what's happening right now. I'm just saying there are 5 reasons why when oil prices goes down, it's generally a bad thing.
Okay. Point number 2.
Point number 2.
When energy companies get hammered, which are very big employers, have a big part of the economy, certainly in certain areas like Texas and Louisiana, North Dakota, oil companies cut jobs, drilling projects are scrapped, smaller producers can go bankrupt. So it can actually disrupt targeted regional economies. Okay, so again, I'm not saying that's specifically what's happening, but it can be bad. Number 3, it wrecks energy investments. So energy stocks and high yield bonds, more specifically, are tied to oil production. And when they take a nosedive, it hurts the economy, right? So ConocoPhillips, which is my stock pick of the year, getting absolutely hammered when oil prices go down.
Number 4. How's this going, by the way? Number 4?
Yeah, how's this going? Right.
So far, I played these.
Number 4. Aren't you glad I did?
Aren't you glad I didn't do this on the radio?
Yes.
Yes.
Makes no sense.
Number 4.
It messes with inflation in weird ways. Like central banks like stable inflation. We all know. We all like stable inflation. We don't want it spiking. Oil prices affect transportation and production costs all across the economy, right? And so falling oil prices can push inflation too low, oddly enough, which limits the Fed's ability to stimulate the economy. This is not what's happening in this scenario. There's no way that's what's happening right now. Of course, we are not in a deflationary environment. Dame, has it occurred to you how excited high school econ teachers are this week? For decades. When are we even going to use this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, they got to be like, I told you about tariffs. It's like,
my oldest is going through a personal finance class at her school, and they had somebody come in yesterday, this week, some point, and was convincing them that all debt is bad.
Oh boy,
all debt is bad.
Okay,
it's like okay.
Yeah.
I have a report from young Theodore's personal finance class when trying to figure out how to say it. So,
Number 5.
It destabilizes oil-dependent countries. Okay, so Russia, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia. When oil prices fall, that is bad because those countries, chaos can happen. Again, this is where this particular period of time gets weird. What Dame's saying is right, and OPEC has spiked oil production. Prices are falling. Which one of these 5 things is actually going to take effect? I'm not quite sure, but it's a little bit of a cluster in the oil investment market and futures market right now. Fair? Dame's nodding his head, so I'll take that.
Yeah, I think you presented things in a non-editorialized way.
Oh my God!
I mean, we could disagree on whether or not it's a leading indicator of economic issues, but I mean, it could. It very well could. I mean, less oil being used probably leads to less economic growth overall because of a lot of things you just said. So yeah, it could potentially be. You could be right. Could be wrong. But you could be right.
By the way, my college econ professor, Eric Dodge. What a time to be alive. Dodge. So funny story. I don't know if Professor Dodge remembers this or not. I was in Professor Dodge's stats class, and then I think we had some sort of like, I don't know, I was some class in which I had to do some presentation, and I was trying to illustrate some point, and I used a video in my presentation of a zoo monkey urinating into its own face, and I showed it in class. And I think it was one of those moments where possibly he wanted to laugh, but he probably shouldn't. And so he just kind of gave me that look, which I'm now used to from all monkey peeing in mouth. Yes, sir. That's exactly right, Professor Dodge.
Yes, sir.
Live on the Facebook. Yes, I did that. And oddly enough, my professor is still in my life enough to comment on the live show.
You're just trying to see if there's a way to retroactively go back and change your grade for that class.
Oh man, I went to Hanover College, and so this is a community. There's 1,000 students, It's not unusual, and it was not inappropriate. If you are of age, you go to discuss a grade, you have a beer with your professor and you talk about it, right? Like that, not an unusual thing. So you get to know the professors pretty well. That was funny. Maybe it wasn't.
Did you take that? What year did you take that class? Were you a freshman, senior? What were you?
That's a great question. Did I have the panache as a freshman to do that? No, it was probably my junior year.
Okay.
Junior or senior year. That's a great question. I know what you're getting at. Like, you that much of a problem as a freshman is the question, and the answer is no, I wasn't. Okay. I had this professor named Paul Bloom my freshman year in money and banking, which I dropped the class because I was doing so badly in it. And he was great. Like, if he had a real high voice, not like Andy Moore, but like, okay, guys, anybody got any questions? Let's throw up a flag. If you throw up a flag, if you got a question, is that a flag? And he would just call a hand up a flag. And it was the greatest thing ever. And then I dropped the class. Oh. Yeah. Let's continue the show. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Wild week in the market and the economy. What if it derailed your plans? Last segment, we talked about what if it messed up your investment portfolio. If you want to hear that, go to wherever you get your podcast and just look for the Pete the Planner podcast. There's a lot on the feed. Or go to youtube.com/Pete the Planner and watch it so you can see Dame's face as I say ridiculous things. And you can also see Kristen's eyes roll out of the back of her head most of the episode. Okay, Kristen, what if someone is on the verge or had a plan in the fall to buy a car, new, used, whatever, and the tariffs, which there are still 25% tariffs on car imports and car parts? What is a person to do if this economic period has just yucked their yum? What are they to do?
Well, here we go again. Why do I have to be the bearer of bad news every time?
That's why I'm starting with you, because Dame, protect his reputation.
I think we have to delay that purchase if we can. If you weren't someone who purchased a car, we had 2 coworkers purchase cars right before the tariffs went into effect. And if you weren't someone who was able to get that plan together before then, I think we got to delay that purchase.
Dame, how do you feel?
You're
the car guy on our show, right?
Yeah, but I do have a car purchase coming up before the end of the year because I'll have a new driver early next spring. So it is absolutely impacting the type of vehicle that we're looking at this point. We don't know how things are going to shake out. We don't know what manufacturers are going to choose to eat the tariff and for how long that might possibly last. But for the window that we're looking at making that transaction in, it's a long way away, and I'm not too terribly optimistic we're going to still have the opportunity to buy cars at today's prices that far out. So we're going to have to reevaluate, stick to the budget as best we can, and pick something that we think is going to work for the needs that we've outlined.
Kristen, do you get the feeling, again, you and I don't talk offline that much about economics, but the tariffs, some feel like they're in place for a while. Some feel like they're negotiable. Sure. Do you get a sense of the 25% car tariff? Does that feel permanent-ish, or does it feel temporary?
See, that's what's really interesting, because I was going to ask Dame as a follow-up because I am not an economist, skeptical or otherwise. I don't know how I feel about the impact of tariffs and what that's going to do to the used car market. That's something that I don't feel like I fully understand. And so it's like, do you, Dame, feel like that impacts your plans? And if someone's looking to make a car purchase, if they hurry and make a used car purchase, is that still something that seems like a reasonable avenue?
I think there's still absolutely deals to be had out there right now with cars. But as the time continues to click away, if we see some stability in that tariff, that 25% tariff, and as manufacturers try and figure out what they're going to do to either get around it or just pass it on to the consumer, that's when we're going to have to make those decisions. And used car prices are going to go higher. If new car prices trend higher as well, used cars become more valuable because they will still be less expensive, comparatively speaking. So you can anticipate higher used car prices in the future as well.
You know where this also gets complicated is, so let's say a dealer, I just made a car purchase. For those that don't know, I was in the same situation Dane was in with a new driver, and we made the purchase a week before all of the tariffs. Like, so we won. I never win. I won. Great. But here's what I learned in the process. We were looking for a used car, obviously. So if a dealer, I won't talk dealers, a dealer gets a car, they're going to make some level of repairs and remediate whatever challenges are going on there. That process is going to get more expensive. And so then they're going to have to list the car at a higher price because parts are part of the tariffs. So that's another reason. It's not just the demand for new cars, therefore I got to go to a lesser priced used car. It's because to get the used car ready to sell, it's going to go up in price. So Dame, to that point, isn't possibly your best decision to wait until the absolute last second to see if tariffs get dropped?
We're not going to rush into this by any stretch.
There's no rush into this.
Yeah, there's no reason for us to buy right now, but we're going to delay until the last minute possible to see if we can skirt around this somehow, or if somehow a deal presents itself, then we'll be opportunistic and take advantage of it. But there's zero issues for me to go and buy something in a few months when we really don't have a need for it until the very end of the year.
Are you going to account for trying to buy a car that is like its pedigree is a high percentage manufactured in the United States and have that impact you? Or given that you're buying a used car, that doesn't exactly matter anyway?
Depends. So it may not be a used car because depending on who gets the current car that's in our family, Mrs. Advice may get a really nice new car as well. So our new driver may get the current car that's in the family, is what I'm saying. Get the caveat. So I don't know. We're all options are still on the table. We certainly haven't ruled anything out at this point, but man, there's just so many things that could change between now and then. It almost seems silly to speculate on what that buying environment's going to look like, 8 months from now.
Kristen, when you think about transportation costs at large as part of a person's budget, at your money line, Pete the Planner Extended, we like 15% or so, no more than 15% allocated towards that, which includes insurance, fuel, and of course, a car payment and maintenance if you've got it. Through that lens, how much tighter does a budget get if a person is forced to expand upon 15%?
Yeah, I think it gets a lot tighter because we see either we're purchasing something maybe newer that's more expensive, or you're making compromises on the sticker price for something that might be older that, to your point, Pete, hey, repair costs might be higher because of parts that are imported and there could be tariffs there as well. I think that the squeeze of that part of a budget, which let's be honest, we rarely see households, especially if they have a car payment, especially if they have 2 car payments, maintaining that 15% or less. It's a hard number to squeeze into when you look at your net monthly income. I think it just got a lot harder.
Listener Jeremiah makes the comment about interest rates being high for a number of years now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're horribly higher than what they were at once upon a time prior to everything just absolutely falling through the floor, but what I think might actually happen, and I've seen some indication of this online, because Pete's already called it out. I am kind of the car guy of the show. Manufacturers and their financing arms are already starting to drop interest rates on certain cars at this point. And I'm not saying they're 0% deals, but I've seen some that are 1.9, 2.9, 3.9, better than what you can get at a credit union or small bank or big bank close to you. And they've got every reason in the world to try and get inventory cleared out as fast as possible at this point. So now might not be a horrible time to buy a car before things get cranked up. Depending on what the tariffs do, that may impact financing deals as well to try and get some inventory cleared off lots before things really grind to a halt as well.
There's still some speculation online too. The first part is not speculation. The second part feels very speculative. One is insurance premiums are going to go up because to fix cars is more expensive. Okay, so that I don't view that to be speculative. Like that's just how things work. The next piece is speculative. They said the article said since so many like FEMA and so many disaster recovery type programs and funding is going away, that even the funds that were used to make people whole in bad situations are going to drive up the costs. And I was like, seems a little speculative, but who knows? Coming up after the break, what happens if you're going to buy a house this year? Should you do it? That's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Not you, Kristen. You're fine. You're buying it today.
You're buying it today.
You get the financial professional exclusion. You know what you're doing.
I had an uncomfortable situation last night. I went to get my car washed, and
It was cold.
What?
Isn't it kind of cold?
Cold to get a car wash? What's that mean?
What?
I don't know. I don't wash my car when it's cold. Go ahead.
Dame?
Yeah, I still wash my car when it's cold.
Time out.
What? Why would you not wash your car when it's cold? Like, you don't want it to catch a virus? Like, what?
Let me guess, because the doors are going to freeze shut.
Jason Brown nails it. Well, I wash my own car, and I'm not washing it when it's cold. My car's never been through an automatic car wash, so.
Okay.
Well, mine has, and it did last night.
And it liked it.
And it was great. So I'm entering the car wash, really incredibly polite and put together, probably older teen, I don't know, 18, I don't know, whatever. Hey, I had a coupon. I had like a little book thing. I hand them the book, and they swipe it. They're like, hey, we've got a monthly unlimited wash for this amount of money. Would you like it? And I said, oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't get my car washed that frequently, Kristen, because, even though I'm not doing it myself, I don't have a lot of time. So anyway, I was like, no, thank you. And they're like, may I ask why? I was like, how much do you want to hear? I was like, I do have a couple of books in my trunk I could give you. But I was just sort of like, no, I thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you asking. No, thanks. And they're like, can fit into just about any budget. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop you right there. You have taken this up with the wrong person. No, I stayed polite, but I was just like, man, may I ask you why you're not buying this car subscription? I was like, I am incredibly uncomfortable, but I really appreciated that person going for it.
Yeah.
Dame, do you wash your own car?
A lot of the time, yeah. But in the winter, when it's too cold to stand outside in 33-degree weather, and then you need to get the salt blown out from underneath the car, then I run it through the wash.
Reverend Renfro asked if that's a subscription, my car wash. No, it is not. Okay. Man, I should not have read that email from my accountant. Did you guys see the Restoration Hardware CEO was doing an interview, and then he saw their stock price live?
Somebody made a joke about it.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. And then he on air, I think it was like an earnings call or something, or an investor call, and then he used profanity. I did, but I saw it.
I need to look for that now.
It's really funny. And then he was like, we'll be fine. And then someone's like, take a look at your stock price. And he looked and he goes, holy. That's funny. All right. Long story, but make it very short. 10 Commandments came across my eyes recently. It was like one of the classically written ones, like very, like no modern words. You know how sometimes they get completely changed out for modern ideas.
Like the 10 Commandments in King James Version English, essentially.
Sure.
Okay.
The one that says, don't covet thy neighbor's ass. Right?
Thou shalt not covet thy. Okay. Yeah.
But it's not. It means like your neighbor's possessions.
Yes.
And one of those possessions being your neighbor's donkey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it, and I just pictured Kristen at her new farm home looking yonder beyond her acreage to the neighbor's ass and coveting that ass. until Dame and I present her with the show donkeys that we will be getting her.
Absolutely. It's going to be great.
I cannot wait.
Because until you have those donkeys, you are by definition coveting your neighbor's ass.
That is true.
I thought you were going to say assless.
Yeah. I would, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember in Sunday school learning that phrase, even as like a first or second grader, and going, I mean, I'm 40 years removed from that moment, and I'm still going, word choice.
We haven't talked about this. What do you think the tariffs are going to do to donkey prices?
Well, that's an amazing question.
Domestic donkeys.
I'm not getting European donkeys for her.
That's true.
They just show up like their club and
Gold chain, sunglasses.
Eric notes that my humor is that of a first grader. Yes, and my college professor also stacked hands on that just a little bit earlier in the show. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Wild week in the market and the economy and things. It affected people's plans. Some people lost some money because they shouldn't have sold. Other people, portfolios are down and they wanted to retire soon. Others are afraid of what to buy in the stock market, or car marketplace, because they need to buy a car, but then they're theoretically going to be more expensive. And now we move on to home ownership. How did this week impact buying a home, whether used or brand new construction? So, Dame, I'll start with you.
Thank you.
And for those listening, Kristen is closing on a home today.
Oops.
No, oops. Dame, Kristen, I don't know if I would tell you if I thought you were wrong, but I don't think you're wrong here. I really don't. Dame, you're not affected by what just happened.
I think she's fine. There's job stability in her financial situation, which I think is probably the biggest determining factor on whether or not you go through with a big purchase like this right now. Is the income going to be there to pay for it? Because you are committing yourself to 15, 30 years in most cases of payments. And depending on what's going to go on in the economy, let's just leave interest rates completely out of it. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to make sure that money is going to be there month after month after month after month to make sure that you keep that roof over your head. So if there's financial stability in your household and there's plenty of margin in your budget right now, this house isn't going to stretch you to a point of uncomfortable point, because I don't know how many times we've heard it over the years, we'll grow into the payment, that sort of thing, then you're going to be okay. I think you can potentially continue with this as long as you can take a real honest look at your current financial situation, check a few boxes off, and move forward.
Yeah. Dame, earlier in the show, you and I learned that we may be on either side of the argument as to whether we're heading towards a recession.
Yeah.
So as I start to think through this conundrum of not Kristen, but as someone is getting into the spring home buying market and they're thinking, I'm going to buy a house in June or July. That's sort of my litmus here. Based on my feeling that we are heading towards recessionary times, I would think that's a bad idea. I think the better time would be when we have to lower interest rates to get out of the recession that we're definitely going into. That is the time to buy a home. Kristen, before we talk around you too much, do you think we're heading towards a recession?
I don't necessarily think that we're headed.
Hold on.
I'm out.
I don't necessarily think we're headed toward a recession. Sorry, there were too many things there. I don't think that we are headed toward a recession for sure yet.
So we're not wagering people. And as Dame and I said in the pre-show, he and I have wagered so much over the years and no one's paid. We don't know who owes what, anything other than we owe Kristen a couple donkeys. Dame, I'd be willing to wager you we're heading towards a recession. But how strongly are you? Like if we go percentages like the economists do, I'm at 65%. Where are you?
below 50%, but it's probably 35 to 50% at this point.
35 to, okay, well, okay, that's fair. You're technically honest with that. I appreciate that. What do you think about new construction pricing with the tariffs? I know a lot of homes aren't built with steel and aluminum. However, there is talk very publicly from the president's mouth himself that he's targeting things like pharmaceuticals and lumber and those sorts of things that you don't need pharmaceuticals to build a home, but you do need lumber. Dame, that's going to be more expensive. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no real way around that. That if the costs of construction go up, I don't know if any general contractors are going to take a cut on their side of it to decrease the overall cost of the construction either. So yeah, prices are going to go up. I think that's entirely possible, but potentially even likely that they'll go up for at least a while. But yeah, I would expect to see a slowdown in new construction. I think that's totally reasonable.
A dumb question for you. And I don't even know how you begin to answer this very dumb question, but as a percentage of home purchases, I wonder what the ratio has been in the last several years of new home construction versus pre-owned homes and how that ratio might change during the tariffs.
The reason that question is so hard to answer is because it's so dependent on your geography, right? Like the city of Austin had so fewer limits on their zoning that they were able to build seemingly in mass. And now Austin's a real estate market that we've seen claw back in rental prices and home prices, versus if you look at a county like the one that I'm going to be living in, they have really, really strict new build requirements. So new construction is just not something that's happening every day, especially outside the city limits or something that's already been planned and zoned for. So I think that's what makes that so hard, is it's so dependent. Location.
So if there is a new home buyer, first time home buyer is what I want to say. A first time home buyer, which inevitably those folks always are the ones that push a little bit to see what they can afford because they're not used to the process. They give their realtor or whoever, we want to be at 282, and then you close at 315, right? Like we've all done that, right? Dame, this is a terrible time to make that time-honored mistake. Yeah.
I mean, just thinking back to the process that we had and some of the decisions we made, I shudder to think how much different the cost would be now with some of those decisions. Man, new construction, being the typical homeowner, it becomes even more important. Kristen talked about this. I don't remember how long ago it was, and I'm pretty sure it was on one of these shows that we often buy more house than we need. And I think it's a great time to take a fresh look at how much house do you really need, especially if you're building a new one. You can say, well, we're building for the future and for, maybe another kid or whatever. Make sure you can afford the house that you need. And if it stretches into something you want, well, you better double check that too. But maybe take a hard look at how much you need.
Kristen, I feel like that's something you used to talk about all the time. Is just like people
buy too much house.
Yeah. So the house you just bought
is too much house.
Well, at least you're consistent.
Well, okay. So gentlemen, what does, with the little time we have left, what does someone, if they feel like they need to make a house purchase, what boxes do they have to check for us to say as personal finance experts, like, hey, I would still be okay with you doing this?
Damn.
I started off the segment with that. Make sure that there's you have reasonable expectation of income stability. That's first. And so I feel like based on Kristen's reaction, I missed the point of what you're trying to get at.
No. I was just hoping to reiterate, like, I think you're exactly right. I think it's income stability. And maybe, normally we would recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash. doubling that would be something that I would really like to see, or like saying, hey, we're going to put that 20% down. We have some extra. We're actually going to keep it to the side to ensure that, there's extra cash there if there were opportunities for income instability.
Dean, what happens to the rental market?
It's a great question. I don't know what to expect in the rental market right now. I mean, people got to live somewhere, and you would think that potentially there's going to be increased competition for apartments and rentals at this point. So that could potentially drive the costs up there as well. So I don't know for sure, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think there's going to see some increases there.
Obviously, there's all sorts of lagging indicators that we're kind of in the moment right now. I mean,
Sure.
There's some leading stuff, but there's no lagging right now. We're in the moment. The one that when it breaks loose, if it breaks loose, and hopefully it doesn't, unemployment, that's when we know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's with that. We take a break, coming back, biggest waste of money of the week in the news right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Do you want to hear why I'm 65%? I'll be quick. Why I'm 65% that we're going towards recession. It has to do with the 90-day pause. Okay? So President Trump said, hey, we're going to do a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs. By the way, I did a television interview yesterday morning, and the anchor was like, what do you think now that President's paused all the tariffs? And I was like, well, I don't want to embarrass you on your own show here, but they just paused the reciprocal tariffs. She's like, well, I'm pretty sure. And I'm like, okay. You're wrong. Here's why. The 90-day pause is guaranteed uncertainty. It is, if you're a CEO of one of these major companies, you're not going to do anything during this time frame. You've just delayed any decision by at least 90 days. That is a quarter of undeployed capital, a quarter of undeployed strategy, and that is going to lead to unbelievably terrible earnings reports that come out in July because of Q2. That's why I think we're going into recession, is because he effectively just froze every, I say CEO, I mean business strategy.
Yeah.
And that's why we're going into recession. Sorry, I didn't know what to do. There was silence, so I had to make a noise. Okay. Do you buy that?
I'm not saying I don't buy that. My thought is that still means there has to be another 90 days after that of no growth. And I don't know that I buy that.
Negative growth. Not
Correct.
no growth, negative growth.
Well, we're basically already at
no growth, yeah.
So the negative is not going to take much. And I don't think you can go, I mean, I'll have to look up the data. I don't want to say something stupid like, we never go from negative to positive in one quarter. I'm sure we have. I just have to figure out how frequently that happens. Anyway, Jason says, I think this is interesting. Or he just encouraged every business to rush any purchases to be done in the next 90 days. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, that is a way to view it. I don't think CEOs will think that way. Some will.
Yeah, I think there'll be some conundrums there. People who are still see a path forward with realistic business growth opportunities during the next 12 months. And they may need to try and get some of those purchases taken care of. I think there's going to be a lot of people hoarding cash as well.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is the Louis Vuitton Virgil Abloh, a bean monogram coated canvas airplane bag.
Time out.
Oh, that's a lot of words. I just needed to take a breath. What this is, folks, is it's something that was featured on the runway during the 2021 Louis Vuitton Fall Winter Menswear Show. This whimsical bag, like tortoiseshell frames, was among the last Abloh designs he might have seen debuted in person because he passed away. As the name suggests, it's shaped like a jet, complete with a cockpit window, a tail, silver rivets, and underwing engines. It's crafted from LV's signature monogram canvas with a black textile lining and includes a shoulder strap, luggage tag, and dust bag available to purchase. So I don't know the size of this thing. I'm going to see but it looks like, Kristen, like a large woman's handbag, but it's an airplane. Is that about right?
Yeah, I was thinking like a weekender bag for those who might be familiar with that.
Oh, here it is. 7 inches tall. 7 inches tall. Width is 34 inches. So it's almost 3 feet wide.
That's a wingspan right there.
And 30 inches deep. Oh, who would carry that? You'd have to be
That's not even going to fit in the overhead compartment.
Well, you have a PJ at that point if you're buying this thing. Kristen, what do you think this Louis Vuitton airplane bag built for the arms of an NBA player? I could totally see like James Harden or somebody. What do you think, Kristen?
Is this the only one, Pete?
A piece unique?
That's a fair question.
And if you don't know, that's okay. I just didn't know if that was in the copy that.
It was not in the copy.
This is.
I think it might be one of one.
Okay, then this is $18,000.
Oh man, I was going to say $20,000.
You both would be wrong. It's 60,000 American Airlines dollars. Kristen, ask Dame what's in the news this week.
What's in the news?
The government's gimme money department has shrunk so much that it's struggling to get up and work. IRS audits are at a record low and could plunge even further following President Trump's cuts, the New York Times reported this week. According to the New York Times analysis of federal data, audit rates for personal income taxes fell from about 1% in 2010 to 0.36% in 2023. The audit rate fell below 0.5% in 2020 for the first time on record. And the IRS has collected only $4.5 billion from 2019 personal audits so far, down from $11 billion from audits of 2010 returns. And there have been, quote, steep declines in corporate audits too. Why? Well, of course, the IRS cut more than 20% of its 95,000 person workforce between 2010 and 2019, leaving burdened workers with less room for time-consuming high-income audits, which can recoup $100,000 or more from a single flawed tax return, and it could get worse. DOJ is planning on cutting 18,000 plus IRS workers, which could cost the government $6.8 billion in lost tax revenue next year, according to Yale's nonpartisan budget lab. As many as 5,000 IRS employees have already accepted buyouts.
Kristen, do you feel less likely to be on the up and up with your taxes based on the information you just heard? I mean,
absolutely not. I'm a rule follower.
Okay. Dame, may I ask you the same question?
I will say absolutely not personally, but Mrs. Advice was on a webinar and they claim that they anticipate filings being drastically lower this year because of this.
You would think, as we all know, at the beginning of the show, I decided to look in an email from my accountant of what my tax bill is now. And boy, it really makes you want to sharpen the pencils a bit. I know I've said this on the show before. I have like this unusual fear of tax jail. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what sort of guilt exists in my life and what sort of things I feel like gray areas I've been exploiting. But that's like a fear of mine, is to like get in trouble because of tax filings.
How do you feel when you go through TSA at the airport?
Efficient. And I also hope for a pat down because I'm going to be lonely sometimes.
Okay.
Dane, what else is in the news?
You know who loves market volatility?
Jim
the
Cramer.
people whose job it is to go on TV and sound off volatilely about the markets. Violently, I can't even pronounce that word. Probably should have read this first. With Americans hungering for information about what's happening to their 401ks, cable business news channels are experiencing a ratings bonanza. Last week, as the market swung wildly while investors tried to assess the economic impact of the president's sweeping tariff regime, people across the U.S. reached for the TV remote. Fox Business drew an average of 251,000 viewers during trading hours last Wednesday through Friday, 22% more than the week before, according to The Hollywood Reporter. And the viewership bump was even more pronounced at CNBC over the same 3 days. The channel averaged 293,000 viewers during market hours, representing a 36% increase compared to the previous 4 weeks. It's not the only place the network still employs Jim Cramer attracted extra eyeballs. CNBC also got a boost in online traffic, and it snagged 83% more page views than its average for the first quarter across its website.
I watched a lot in the last 10 days. A lot.
You were one of 293,000 people to watch that during market hours.
Okay, that is the most surprising piece of that.
I agree completely.
It's not even that more people watched. It's not even the percentage increase in viewership. When you said how many people watched, and that was more than a double-digit increase, that was the most shocking part of that news story to me.
Nobody watches.
That's like no people.
No one watches.
Because how many TVs and like bank lobbies are turned on to this and no one is watching? So legitimately, who's watching?
Well, I have an answer for you. Earlier in the week, I did a local interview. I walked out of my office to my colleagues, our colleagues here, and I said, "No one could see that. Like no one. Who's watching this?" At 7:00 that night, I get a text from my mom that said, "You look very handsome on the news." So there's your answer. My mom watches.
So if nobody watches major news networks, what's the local viewing got to be?
138 people.
Roughly.
No, I actually did some research on like a regional network in the last couple of weeks. Because I was just like, it was sort of, is this, oh gosh, how do I do this? Is this worth my time?
Yeah.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I actually put all of it into ChatGPT and I said, is this actually worth it based on what you know about me? Because it knows everything about me now at this point. It was like, no. No.
He didn't give an explanation. It just was like, no.
No, it's like, no, unless, and then it said this, or this. And like, none of those things applied. Like, I don't, oh my gosh, I have so many friends on local television news. I do. And so I know some of them listen to the show. I feel very bad about it. How do those things?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
I know they're making a lot of cuts and they have changed. But man, I just don't know. It just feels like typewriters a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, this was a thing. How about this for a big show? So we will continue to keep you posted on the economic and financial news here on the Pete the Planner Show. If you're listening on the radio, it doesn't have to stop there. Go to wherever people get podcasts, and you can listen to the show four days a week. 3 mini episodes that are less than 10 minutes, and then the big show, which you listen to on the weekends, and we podcast on Fridays. Dane, big plans for the weekend?
No.
Kristen's moving. Oh, you're not moving today. You're just closing on your home today.
No, I'm just removing copious amounts of 60s wallpaper this weekend.
From which home?
The new home.
Oh, that wasn't meant to be an offensive question. And it was. All right, that's it. So don't freak out. Not a good time to sell your investments. They always recover. 5 worst periods in our market's history, they still recovered. Okay, so just calm down. Send you good vibes. Good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. Oh, boy. That was something. God, I shouldn't have read that email. Dave, I'll send you the number later if you want to see it.
I mean, I can tell you how much we paid in taxes for last year, plus the estimate for this year if you want.
No. I have a feeling, and I don't want to know.
I could show you guys the authorization for the wire transfer for the down payment on the house. That doesn't really feel a lot better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you at least get something.
Yeah.
Nothing that I can see. It's not tangible. Can't see the equity. Make the payment either way.
Okay. Part of the plan was I was going to have my 16-year-old daughter on the show this week, and she was going to be because she's on spring break, and I was going to figure out a segment or something, but then she got sick, so she would just be all nasally, and who wants a nasally teen on the show? All right. Well, that's it. I mean, we're hours into this show. So
truly.
Hey, Kristen, good luck at the closing today.
think.
Will you send like a picture to us in the group chat?
Yeah. Okay.
Primarily of your partner. I'd rather, not of you.
Just him. Yeah.
Just him. Dame, have a good weekend, buddy.
Thanks. You too.
Everybody else, stay getting money.